And CTV's Jeremie Charron joins us now from Ottawa. He's following all this. Jeremie, are we going to hear from the Prime Minister today about what is unfolding?
Well, that's a great question, Roger. Not clear at this point. I've reached out to the Prime Minister's office, but we do not know yet whether or not the Prime Minister will be made available today to comment publicly on this. As you've touched on and as you've alluded to, he's made those public comments about, Canada's stance moving forward and how Canada plans to fight back and focus on what we can do as a country to help ourselves. But certainly, the Prime Minister at some point will have to address this. We know that, work will continue. This deadline doesn't mean that negotiations stop, of course. Donald Trump talked about this leading into the deadline, and so did Prime Minister Mark Carney, who alluded to the fact earlier this week that negotiations would likely go beyond the August 1st deadline. So, if anything, negotiators are now, kicking into high gear to try and really grind out a deal here and agree to a new deal when it comes to tariffs. We know that work will continue behind the scenes. At this point, it's unclear whether or not the Prime Minister will speak publicly and address this today, or whether that's something we'll see happen down the line, Roger.
And I guess that means a difficult question to answer is what Trump was telling NBC last night, that he was willing to talk to our PM, but do we know if that even might happen?
Yeah, there's certainly willingness, as you touched on. That's what he told NBC. We know through what President Trump said yesterday that Carney, had reached out yesterday, but that the two have not spoken yet. Speaking to the Prime Minister's office yesterday, there was no confirmation as to whether or not a conversation was scheduled or was attempted. So we know that, the work continues behind the scenes. Presumably, they're going to talk at some point here in the near future. Canada is still, a massive trading partner, the U.S.'s largest trading partner. And while, the pressure is on, while the relationship is not what it once was, there is still massive value for President Donald Trump to speak to Prime Minister Mark Carney and iron things out here. And so you'd have to believe that at some point in the near future, the two are going to speak and try and look at a path forward and perhaps, determine what the next steps are when it comes to ongoing negotiations. We know Donald Trump has indicated that there are things that he continues to not like. He continues to talk about this trade deficit. He continues to target supply management in the dairy industry as something he doesn't like. And we know that Canada's stance earlier this week on, acknowledging the Palestinian state, that they plan to do so at a later time at a UN meeting, that's something Donald Trump was not pleased with, and that he said that would also hamper ongoing trade negotiations. So, the president's playing hardball right now. But presumably at some point in the near future, the two are going to have to speak, and we'll look to get an update as soon as that happens, of course.
Okay, and what about the premiers? What are they saying? And the opposition leader, Pierre Poilievre?
Yeah, lots of reactions so far. You heard there from Premier Doug Ford, who thinks that Canada should be fighting back and hitting back hard with counter tariffs. Not clear yet whether or not the government is going to take any retaliatory measure here. The Carney government, unlike the Trudeau government previously, has not been as reactionary, if you will, has not immediately hit back with its own countermeasures, because, of course, as you remember, those counter tariffs are going to be paid by Canadians. Now, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has also reacted, saying Conservatives continue to hold out hope for a deal to end all U.S. tariffs on Canada. That means zero tariffs on our steel, aluminum, softwood, autos, energy, agriculture, and everything else. That is the deal Canada had before, and the Prime Minister should accept nothing short of that. The Conservative leader taking to social media platform X to post this. He goes on to say, we must stand our ground and put Canada first. Conservatives continue to stand ready to work with all parties to end these unjustified U.S. tariffs. We must also take back control of our economic future by breaking our dependence on the U.S. He then goes on to say, we call on the Liberals to repeal anti-development laws and cut taxes on work, energy investment, and home building to make our economy strong, self-reliant, and sovereign. That is Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. And the other important thing to kind of touch on here, Roger, and the Prime Minister, indicated it in his statement early this morning in reaction to what has unfolded here in the 35% tariffs. due to the agreement that already exists, the Canada-U.S.-Mexico agreement, these 35% tariffs apply to only non-CUSMA compliant goods. And there are no exact numbers, but rough estimates are that between 80 and 90% of goods traded between Canada and the U.S. are CUSMA compliant. It's not clear if all businesses have, filed proper paperwork. There's a lot of work involved to ensure you can get those exemptions. And we've heard that there has been an uptick in companies and products that are looking for those exemptions. But that means that Canada, as it stands, is still better off than most countries that are facing, these 15% or now higher tariffs across the board. Okay. Many products are exempt here. Notwithstanding that there are industries that are going to be hard hit by this, and steel and aluminum industries, of course, are feeling the brunt of this. But, by and large, Canada's economy is mostly exempt through the current trade deal that exists. So that is important to point out, and experts have pointed to that as a reason for why Canada and the Carney government should be taking their time when it comes to getting a deal here, to make sure they're not getting a bad deal, but that, in fact, they're getting a deal that's better than the situation we're already in right now.
All right, so a complicated situation. Jeremie, thank you for that.